Welcome again. Today's conversation is one that I've been really excited and really looking forward to spending time with you today. Now, here's a thought for you. Did you know that between 10 and 15 weeks in the womb, before you even had a name, before anybody had ever seen your face, like before you even took a single breath, something extraordinary happened? Your fingerprints on your hands were formed. These were not formed from your DNA. They were not inherited from your parents. They were shaped by the specific, unrepeatable environment in your mother's womb at that exact moment. The movement of your body, the density of the fluid around you, and even the pressure of the walls in your mother's womb that held you. The result of that is the pattern that has never existed before in human history. And to be honest, will never exist ever again. Scientists have tried over and over and over again, and there's almost 8 billion people on this planet, and there's not one matching single set of fingerprints. Now, here's a thought. If God took that much care over the pattern on the tip of your finger, what do you think he was doing with the rest of you? Welcome back to the Now Woman podcast. And this is our final, episode for this first quarter of 2026. And today we're really going to go deep on something which I believe is like the fundamental truth for any of us, and particularly in leadership. And that is everything else is built on your unique design, not by accident. It is an absolute deliberate act of God. And really, to understand that changes everything for you. So, when I talk about understanding your design, I don't really mean, like personality tests or strength assessments. They do have their place. And, as a qualified psychologist, I completely understand that. And I know the importance of this. But what we're really talking about is something far deeper and far greater than that. What I mean is the specific combination of your story, your wiring, your giftings, your experiences, even including the pain that you have gone through in your life. Those are all irreplaceable. There's no one else on this planet that was born where you were born with the parents you had and the culture that shaped you. Maybe, the specific challenges that you've gone through, or maybe even the wisdom that you've gained to this point, perhaps even through those challenges that you've had. The combination of that is it's not really, the liability that I guess culture overwhelmed makes us think, hey, you've gone through those trauma or those challenges, and therefore, you are those things. No, you're not the things that happened to you. You're not your past. And so I want to first of all break down four key things that I do believe is important for us to understand when we think about our design, like the who we are, the design of who you are. There's four key things that I mean, I'm sure there's more than that, but there's four key things I want us to focus on today. Number one is, the giftings, the things that come naturally to you that perhaps others find genuinely difficult. I have a daughter that can paint. I mean, we've never paid an art tutor to teach her or anything, or she doesn't even watch videos on YouTube and things. She can literally just paint. That is a unique design. That's a gift that's your imprint of who God is in you, right? Number two, your experiences. Perhaps what you've had to experience in your life, what you've walked through, that hopefully has produced wisdom in your life, and hopefully also, made you to have empathy, and hopefully has built resilience in you. Those are all part of what makes your design you. Thirdly, your wiring. I mean, the specific way you process things, you process situations, ideas, thoughts, how you think. how you connect, how you create, and how you lead as a leader. Your wiring, all of those is part of what makes you unique. And then your pain. I mean, the challenges that you've gone through, because those places that, we all at some point in our lives have been through some challenging situations. Um, Maybe it felt like it broke you, or maybe it really, really impacted you so much. But I want to encourage you and give you that hope that often those are the places where I really believe God has built some of the most incredible depth of strength for you. Now, I want to share a parable with you. If you think of a master potter, they normally, would sit at the wheel, and this potter had, two clumps of clay, and he doesn't treat them identically. So, he presses differently on each one, more pressure here, maybe a gentle or a gentler touch here, a deeper groove on one side than the other. And, a student was watching and then asked, why are you not making them the same? And the potter replies, because they're not the same. Each piece of clay has a different texture, a different weight, a different moisture. And I work with what is in the clay, not against it. So if I force this one to become that one, it would break. Now, God is exactly, our master potter. And he does not make you in spite of your story. He makes you through your story. He makes you who you're meant to be because the world needs you as you are. Now, one of my favorite scriptures is Psalm 139 and verses 13 to 14, talking about how we were shaped, delicately, intricately, complexly woven together in our mother's womb. And this is my favorite translation. I always would tell my husband, hey, go check the Bible. It says that God, thank you for making me so mysteriously complex, right? Everything you do is marvelously breathtaking. Now that just amazes me, just to think about it, how thoroughly God knows me. It's it's not just a compliment for me, but it's the declaration of who God, says I am. And he did not put me or make me or you on some assembly line. We were woven together. He took time intentionally, intricately. He was thinking about what the world would need from you, from me, even before we were born. So, what is the stake, if I completely ignore my design? Now, usually, the telltale signs are I would spend most of my time, or you'd spend most of your life really performing a version of yourself that completely belongs to somebody else. It's not you. You'd be exhausted, it's fruitless, and it's exhausting. Your giftings would also go underdeveloped because you're really too busy trying to replicate somebody else's, this or that. And the specific gap in the world that you were born and made and created to fill would remain unfulfilled. Now, when we think about, I'm probably going to butcher this name, but bear with me and you can, forgive me for that. But it's called Stradivarius violins. Between 1666 and 1737, Antonio Stradivari made approximately 1,100 instruments, and about 650 still remain, today. Musicians, scientists, they've spent centuries trying to understand like what makes, this particular type of violin produce a sound that no modern instrument, regardless of technology, can actually, fully replicate. And the best theory is that it was an unrepeatable combination of specific wood available in northern Italy during that period. And Stradivarius' unique technique and the exact environment conditions of his workshop, maybe. So if you remove any one of those elements, and the instrument would have been different. You are a Stradivarius. Your exact combination of factors, your story, your giftings, your pain, everything about your life has never been reproduced. And the sound you make, who you're called to be, when you fully play your part in who you're called to be, you can't be replaced. You can never be replaced by anybody else. So why is this important? Why is knowing, your design or, what do you mean fingerprint? I'm unique, I'm irreplaceable, it's not replicable. What do I mean by that? Well, when you don't understand your unique design, you really would be leading by imitation. You probably maybe copying the leader you admire, maybe the style that you think, oh, that's gonna get me out there, or maybe an approach that has worked for somebody else. And oftentimes you'd be wondering why, like, there'll be something missing in you and you'd be exhausted. And the bottom line is you will not produce, the level of results that you would have produced if you were that exact person, or you wouldn't be producing the same results that the person you're copying is producing, right? So when you understand your design, three key things immediately change. Number one, you would, fully understand how it is that you're built to lead. So, you know, apologies has its place, but you don't apologize for being who you've been designed to be, who you've been created to be, right? And number two, you stop comparing your own self to somebody else, because if you think of it as a book, you're not writing the same book. And you start drawing on who you're becoming, your story, your design, your challenges as an asset. Because frankly, your most painful experiences possibly sometimes becomes your most powerful leadership tools, right? So draw from draw from all the things that makes you you. Now, I remember as a girl growing up in Ghana, it's really hard because you often be told you're too much, you're too assertive, and there's all these constraints that are just all around you. And it takes a whole lot of courage to actually stay true and stay authentic to who God says you are, right? Now, I fought a lot of who I am and who I was for a long time. But then, with the help of some incredible women and men and my family, a lot of this has shifted. And because now I understand my wire and how I'm created to be, I'm not striving. I'm not trying to be anybody else. I am happy to be all of who I'm meant to be. So some signs that you're actually maybe fighting your design, you are drained because you're performing, regularly looking at other people, other leaders. Maybe you're feeling inadequate because you measure your own design against theirs. You minimize or trivialize who you are, maybe the challenges you've gone through, because you don't yet understand that part of what makes you you. And maybe you're still waiting to be ready. You never quite feel ready, but that's because you're waiting for a version of yourself that really is not the plan, right? So you have to understand who you are. You have to steward who you are, and you have to build from it, right? So your story is a message, part of who you are. Don't edit those out. Be willing to be open, be transparent, and step into those things, right? Now, if you think of a river and a canal, they both carry water from one place to another, but they're completely different things. A canal is an engineered one. Straight lines control depth, predictable path, efficient, useful, forgettable. But a river has to find its own path. It carves through rocks, mountains, floods its banks and seasons, maybe creates an entire ecosystem wherever it goes. Cities, built on rivers. Think of the Netherlands. not necessarily canals. You are similarly a river. You don't have to follow an engineered path or design for, different purpose. You have to find your own course. You have to stay truly, fully to who God says you are, because then everything that is who you're meant to be comes alive, right? So some questions to really be honest with yourself and reflect. Where have you been imitating somebody else's leadership design instead of developing your own? And I want you to think about these as a challenge. I want you to write your design statement and maybe complete. I'm going to help you out. My unique design includes dash, which is your gift, dash, which is your experiences, and dash, which is the specific wisdom that those challenges has produced in you. No one carries this exact combination, and that is exactly what is needed for dash, who you're called to be. Read it out loud every morning until you begin to believe it. Two, identify one aspect of your leadership style that you've been suppressing, leaning to it, and see what happens. Stop fighting it. Three, tell somebody. Tell somebody a part of your story that you've been hiding, maybe not processing it, maybe, not being comfortable. Doesn't matter. Now, practical two, read all of Psalm 139. Read all of it. And then let that really become the lens through which you see yourself rather than the lens of maybe your critics, maybe your culture, or even your past. And then go back to your design statements. Right. So God did not make you in spite of your story. He made you through it. Your fingerprints, remember, has never existed before and never, ever will exist again. The same is true of who God has called you to be. So stop trying to be like a canal because you, my dear, are meant to be and made to be like a river. So I want you to go all in. I really want you to go all in. Imagine an orchestra that's assembled. Every musician is present. Every instrument is tuned. The conductor raises his baton and then the silence. Not because the musicians don't know what to play or that they're not ready, but because one instrument, a single specific instrument, the one composer, this particular piece, has not yet taken its seat, right? The musicians can't complete without it. You are that instrument. That concert has been waiting for you to take your seat and to play your part. So, what is it going to take? What does it have to take? How much longer do you need before you actually take your seat? So, who you are is not an accident. Who you are is by God's design. So, my word to you, give yourself that permission. I give you that permission to become fully who you've been called to be. Share this episode with somebody who, maybe it's been told by her culture or her family or maybe her own inner voice that she's not enough or she's too much or she's wrong, whatever it is. She needs to hear that from you today, that her design is not by accident. It's not a mistake, right? So until we start our new series next month, which is April, remember that you're called to be all in, you're called to be the unique design exactly as you have been created. Your fingerprint. There's nobody else that carries your fingerprint. So until then, stay faithful, stay focused, stay bold, and be all in. And that's all for this week.